Okay. So we're learning a new mimer, and this mimer begins with it's called the Lech Lecha. It's from the Friedrich Rebbe, and he said this mimer in Tufshin Beis, 1942. So you find this mimer in the Sefer Maimorim of Tufshin Beis. Not a long mimer, but there's a lot of very fundamental and general considers in this mimer. So we learn it in our cycle of Maimorim. Okay, we shall get started. Yemer Havaya Avram. Hashem said to Avram, Lech lecha miyaretzcha miladecha mibeis avicha. You should leave your land, the place of birth, your father's home. And where should you go? El haaretz asher areka, to the land that I will show you. The tzarech lahavin. It is necessary to understand. Mahu emrei lech lecha, go to you. L'cheira hine Teves lecha, the second word lecha, to you, miuteres, is extra, it's unnecessary. Yikra kavana, the main intention with these words are halicha min haaretz asher sham b'heva, that is telling him to leave the land that is there now. For maspet leba, so it would have been enough to say, lech me'artzecha, leave your country. Ma'u lech lecha, what does it mean, leave to you? Now we know Rashi and Chumash raises this question. Rashi and Chumash explains it. The Rashi explains it, and actually here he's going to explain it al Chassidus. Rashi says that when a person goes on a journey, on a trip, there are a number of things that are compromised because of that. So Hashem told Avraham Avinu, don't worry, it won't be compromised. But this will be for your benefit. You'll only gain by going on this trip. Another question which is necessary to understand is B'sidrei Inyani HaYitziyah, the way the Torah described the order of him leaving his country. Shechoshev kan shloisha inyanim. The Torah lists three things. Number one, hayitzim and haaretz. He's going to be leaving his land, his country. Min hameilad, he'll be leaving his place of birth. Beisav, he'll be leaving the place of his father's home. I mean, it could have just said, leave the country. So the Torah specifies. And we know that in Torah, every letter is precise, and certainly every word is precise. So here there are three different words, which mean three different things. So obviously, the Torah is saying that Avraham Avinu is leaving the place where he is. He's leaving behind three things. He's going away from Artzacha, Meiladetecha, and Beisavicha. But the question is the order. I would have thought the order would be the opposite, which is Tchila Yitzim Beis Aviv. First, one leaves the house of his father. That means the home, the actual place where you are, where you're coming from. Then you leave the place where you were born, that city, that region, the neighborhood, so to speak. And then the last thing is in haaretz. When a person travels on a trip to another country, the last thing is leaving the country. First he leaves the home, then he leaves his city or neighborhood, and then he goes to another country. And over here, the Seder is just the opposite. Those having the Seder Masuda, then it would have been in a proper Seder, Leizu Avzu. Leizu Avzu is an expression, because very often we find in Torah that the Torah doesn't say one thing, but it says three things, four things, one after the other. And there are two possibilities. One possibility is it means the reason why it's in that order. But one of the possibilities are loizu abzu. The Torah tells us you'll be leaving this, and not only this, but something greater, and not only that, but something even bigger. Once he says the first thing, thank you very much, or welcome back.
Thank you. Yes. Good to be back.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nהיה b'dvoro. Once he says that you're going to be leaving the land, once you leave the country, automatically you've left. That includes already that you've left your home and you left your neighborhood. So why does it have to be spelled out again? Now that it's put in this order, it raises the question, Lama Maskir Klolos Yonim, why does he mention Moladatet and Beisavim? There must be something more to the word your place of birth, and there must be something more to the words the home of your father. And therefore the question is, what is that deeper meaning, and why is it written in this specific order? Then he goes on to another point. From the wording in the pasuk, Shenem, as it's written, Lech Lecha me'artzecha hu el eretz asher reka. Leave the land and go to the land that I will show you. It doesn't say leave this place, which means it could have mentioned the city where he lived. It doesn't say that. And go to the place that I will show you. The Hindish ater eret, and specifically using the term eretz, moving from this is understood that ikru ahiluch mi eretz zu shoyeshom eretz acheres. So it appears to be, being that he says, leave Artzacham and go El Ha'aretz Ashereka. In both cases, he mentions the word Aretz. Leave this Aretz and go to a different Aretz. And even when he says leave this Aretz, it doesn't say the name of the place. It doesn't say which land it was. And when he says go to the other Aretz, it doesn't say which place it is. So it looks like the word Aretz is sort of the key word here. That the main intention was to leave one Aretz to go to another Aretz. So the question is, Mahu Diyuk Zeh. What is this thing about Aretz that's being emphasized there? It's not about Aretz, it's about the place where he's living, the city where he's living, the country where he's living. The emphasis should not be on the word Aretz. These are the questions. And then he goes into the end. The Alshach gives the following explanation. And he says as follows: Lech Lecha, go to you, means Lech La'atzmecha, go to yourself. It means literally what it says, go to you. Again, according to Rashi, Lecha means you will benefit from it. But according to the Alshach, it's deeper than that. It's actually translated literally, go to you. What does that mean to you? That you should reach the root and the source of your neshama, the way the neshama is l'mayla. We'll soon explain this more. So basically, we know that the neshama is down here in the body, but the neshama has roots in a higher place, and this command to Avraham Avinu, Lech Lecha, means Hashem is telling him what to do, and of course empowering him that he could do it, and that he should connect to his source the way it is in the higher spiritual realm, in its original source, not the way the neshama is down here. And through that, Yimshach Gila L'Kuf Lamata. In order for the neshama to do Torah mitzvahs and have an impact on heaven, the way the neshama is down here, invested in a physical body, it doesn't have any connection that it should be able to have an impact in the spiritual realm. But because the neshama comes from the spiritual realm and therefore the neshama has that spiritual power. So the neshama is able to have an impact on the spiritual realm when the learns Torah or those mitzvahs. So and the impact works in two directions. Number one, that by me doing things down here, I can have an impact on changing things up there, and it means enhancing and changing and accomplishing positive things in the spiritual realm. And the second thing is, if I have an impact on up there, I can draw down brachas down here. Draw down brachas, meaning physical brachas, and also draw down godliness and godly light into this world. So we know that that's what we accomplish when we do mitzvahs. But what enables us to do that is the more we're connected with our source, the more capable we are, the more empowered we are to be able to accomplish that. So Hashem tells Avraham to connect to your source in the spiritual realm, and then you'll be able to do this. Now let's explain better. What does it mean that you're a source in the spiritual realm? When the neshama comes down into the body, not the whole neshama goes in the body, only part. And not only part, but only a small part. It's not that the neshama goes into the body and it's primarily in the body, but there's still a little something of the neshama that's connected to its original source. It's the other way around. Most of the neshama doesn't come down and doesn't descend into the body. Only a reflection who mixes in the neshama, a small part of the neshama, is invested in the body. Even though it says, Hashem blew a breath of life into his nostrils, into Adam, it goes on every person. It says in the Zohar, when a person blows, it blows from inside. That is one of the first things we learn in Tanya in the chapter 2. The difference between the creation of the neshama and the creation of everything else in the world. Everything in the world is created through Hashem's speech. And by the neshama, it doesn't say Hashem spoke and said, let there be a soul, let there be life, let there be heaven, let there be earth, let there be trees, let there be animals. But it doesn't say, let there be a neshama. What it says, Hashem blew the neshama into the body. So the Alter Rebbe explains, Pirush Rabbeinu Nishma Satan. The Alter Rebbe explains, what does the Zohar mean when a person blows the blow from inside? Let's turn the page. V'techiyusay v'pnimiyusay. She'yamshochem mi'atzmut yizbarek. In other words, the difference between the creation of the rest of the world and the creation of the neshama is similar to the difference between blowing and speaking. The Alter Rebbe is drawing a parallel. And what's the difference between blowing and speaking? When a person speaks, they can speak for a very long time. When a person blows, they'll become exhausted, and they can only blow for a few moments, and after that, they have to stop and catch their breath and perhaps start all over again. But you can't blow for a length of time like you could speak for hours. Why? Because when a person speaks, the energy that they're expressing is a very, very small degree of energy. And when a person blows, they're blowing from deeper inside, and therefore it exhausts the person much more than through speaking. Same thing with the neshama, that everything else Hashem created in the world, He created through speech, which means Hashem invested an external, so to speak, of course, metaphorically speaking, an external energy of Himself, which He invested in creation, in animals and plants, in things that are daimon, that are inanimate. But when Hashem created the neshama, He blew from His deeper inside. So on one hand, we're saying that Hashem is blowing from something deep within Himself and blowing that into the body. So why are we saying just a small part? But nevertheless, after everything's said and done, the neshama does come from Hashem's inner, deeper dimension, But which part of that actually goes down and gets invested in the body, Irak or Levad, only a reflection of the essence of the soul, because the essence of the soul, that remains Lamaila, Kshura Udvuka Belakim Chaim. It remains bound with Hashem Himself. Like I said, this is one of those points which are fundamental in Chassidus and relates to a lot of subjects of Chassidus, is that there's two parts to the neshama, one part that remains in Shemayim, and one part that comes down. So initially, when you think of it, it sounds confusing, because if it's two parts, one is there, one is here, so how they connected, like it stretches from up there, like bubble gum, and comes all the way down into the body. Is there a string that connects them? So after all, we're talking about a soul or a neshama, it's something spiritual. And when we say up there or down here, it's also not space. Up there doesn't mean near the clouds or near Jupiter or Mars. Up there means in the spiritual realm. So how could you understand this in a way that will be a little bit closer to us, something that we can relate to? So what comes to mind is to use the analogy of an adult that's playing with a child. You have an adult, he's a mature, intelligent person, and they're playing with their 3-year-old. How do they play with their 3-year-old? They get down on the floor, and they're squeaking and squealing. So this happens, they throw the ball, they catch the ball, they run after it. They might even be crawling on all the floor, and they're having a lot of fun. And they look like the child. They're running around just like the child, which means, yes, if the parent wants to give this 3-year-old a good time, you can't be sitting by the table and give them a lecture on how the sun and the moon connect to each other. You have to do something on their level that they can relate to. So you're down there, you're laughing, you're squealing, you're running, you're screaming, you're screeching. So when the person goes down to the child's level, does that mean they really, in reality, became a child? No. The person is still the person, he's still an adult. But on the other hand, there is a certain element, to say 1 fraction of a percent of something somewhere, where their personality, they're sort of bringing themselves down to the level of the child to relate to it. I'm using it as an example where you can say that the person themselves really never changed. He is what he is. But he's changing in the sense that he's bringing himself down to the level of this little child. So when you say up and down, we're not talking about space. Right? Up and down is that space. I always think of the story where somebody once was reading the will that his father left, and the will had said that he shouldn't inherit anything until he goes crazy. That's the word that he wrote. And the son was very confused. His father was perfectly healthy. His mind was healthy. And what is he writing such ridiculous things? What does that mean? He was very confused. So he decided to go to the Rav and ask the Rav, how would he explain it? What would he say? He goes to the rabbi's house and he hears a lot of noise. He looks through the window on top of the door and he sees that the rabbi is on the floor and one kid is sitting on his neck, one is sitting on his back, and he's crawling under the table. And he thought it would be pretty embarrassing if he didn't walk into the house right now. So he left, come back later. Comes back 2 hours later, and sure enough, the rabbi's sitting by the table, he's looking into a sefer, knocks on the door. Yep. And he says, this is the rule that my father left. I thought maybe you with your wisdom could figure it out. And the rabbi is pretty shocked himself, scratching his head, and suddenly breaks into a smile and said, if you would have been here 2 hours ago, you would have understood what your father means. You shouldn't inherit until you get married and you have children. That's when you go crazy. You go down to the child's level. So there's 2 points. At one point is you're going down. On the other hand, in essence, you don't really change. Now, the neshama up there is surrounded by only spirituality, which means the neshama sees godliness, the neshama hears godliness, the neshama is experiencing only godliness. There's no potatoes and tomatoes and pizza. These things don't exist up there. So the only thing that's up there is just pure spirituality, and the neshama is experiencing knowledge of Hashem, love for Hashem. Everything is about godliness. When the neshama comes down here, it's dealing with physical things where we know it. So there's a part of our neshama that hasn't changed, which means even right now, while the soul is in the body, there's a deeper dimension of the soul that is still experiencing godliness and hasn't really descended. And we don't feel it, we're not conscious of it. But in a deeper subconscious level, the neshama is experiencing all these things no different than before. So again, it doesn't mean the neshama didn't go down physically, geographically speaking. It's not geography. This means that spiritually the neshama didn't have a descent, it didn't have a change. And therefore the neshama is as pure as it was initially. Yeah.
One is go back and clarify the whole thing with when we learn Torah and do mitzvahs, we have impact on the spiritual realm,
Yeah.
and we draw down godliness. So that's what you were just saying. So I hear the Shama in my end of the case, it's secure, but then the Shama down here, and having some understanding separation between the Shama.
We're having trouble because we still can only think of things in a physical way. But what we're saying is, in the neshama, that the word down here, up there, doesn't mean up there, again, thousands of miles away. Up there means a deeper place within my soul itself right now.
So we have a whole Shama, but only like access to.
When we say not the whole neshama is in the body, it means it doesn't change because of the body. It maintains its original spiritual status as it always was.
But part of the Shama.
Like the adult that doesn't change when he becomes a child.
And part of the Shama in us does change.
Yep. There's a part of the neshama that changes, which means we get excited about gashmic things, we get upset about gashmic things, and we don't. And there's a part of us that we have to work very hard to even be moved by spiritual things, because the neshama became part of the body, which means it becomes more physical.
That's maybe when we said the Yesida of the Shama.
Right.
Those other parts of the Shama within us.
Right.
But the Yesida of the Shama at every level is the part that's pure.
That's pure, right. And hasn't changed and so on and so forth. Right. So he brings the pasuk, which it's not the pasuk, but the tefillah, the prayer that we say every morning, where we say, "Alakai neshama shenasata bi tahiri," the neshama that you gave me is pure, which means shirish and neshama, the root of the soul, itahira, it's pure. But literally, pure means it's more spiritual. But it's also linked to a specific level in the spiritual realm, which is called Tihiru Ilah. But that means a level in Shamayim that's pure spirituality. Kamesha Kosuv, like there's another pasuk where it says, Ke'etzem HaShamayim L'Teir, like the heaven when it's pure, when it's clear. The Etzem Klora Renkai, he says it in Yiddish. Often in a minor, when the Rebbe wants to emphasize something and bring it closer to us, he repeats it in Yiddish because that was the language that people spoke. And when you hear something in your native language, it's closer. So in Yiddish, it also means the clear and pure. Shanashami b'tachlis habitul lelakus. Up there, the neshama is totally bottled to godliness. Over there, the neshama doesn't see itself, doesn't perceive itself separate from Hashem, but it's totally connected to Hashem, and it's one with Hashem. Zeh Pirush HaMaimah. This also explains another statement of our sages. Da me ayin basa. I just want to show this to you inside. If you look in the back, page 31. As you see in the beginning of the first mission of the Pirkei Avos, it says, Da me ayin basa, you should know where you come from and where you are going and for whom you are destined to give an accounting. Where do you come from? From a small drop, which is referring to the drop of 7. Where are you going? To a place of dust, maggots, and worms, which means ultimately the body becomes nothing. Before you're destined to give an accounting before the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He. We know that Chassidus flows a neshama into every word in the Torah, every word from our sages. So here too, Da may ayin basa, which literally means where you're coming from, and then it concludes you're coming from something which is really nothing. The Chassidus says, Da, you should know, it's not a question, it's actually a statement. Da, you should know, may ayin basa, you come from a place which is called ayin. What's this place called ayin? Because ayin means naught, nothing. It's not. We need to say the neshama up there is totally bottled to Hashem. There's a mimer from the Tzemach Teves where it says that all of Chassidus, and by the way, we'll see about this more later in this mimer itself, is to take the word ani and transform it into ayin. Ani is spelled Aleph, Nun, Yud, which means I. And if you speak in English, it's a capital I. And ayin means little, nothing. You take the ani and turn that into ayin. So the neshama comes from a place where it's ayin. And then from there it descends. Ata barasa means it comes down into the world of Bria. Ata yitzarta, the neshama continues its journey and comes down to the world of Yitzira. Ata nafachtabi, and then here in this physical world, you blew the neshama into me. To say the hamshachas and neshama, this is describing the order, the way the neshama comes down, the Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, the establish the group. So the neshama goes through these different levels in the Abo Etzem neshama, but the essence of the soul, Ilamaila, that remains Lamaila. Again, what does that mean? It means in a different place. It means it maintains its original spiritual pureness. Nothing has changed. And that part of the neshama which remains Lamaila, which hasn't changed, is also called Mazel. And it's based on what it says, these words are often brought down in Chassidus, it's also brought in Tanya, but I want to show you the source of these words on page 32. The source of the words are actually from Gemara. Page 32, where it's underlined. You have 2 parts underlined on top of the page and then a little bit lower. Top of the page it says, I, Daniel, I alone saw the vision, meaning you're talking about a prophetic vision. And the people who were with me did not see the vision. Yet a great fear fell upon them and they fled in hiding. They were so overcome with fear that they ran and they were hiding. We can skip the middle part and look at the next part. This is in Gemara Megillah. Gemara asks, who are the other 3 people? Chagi, Zechariah, Malachi. Being that they didn't see the vision, why were they frightened? The Gemara answers, even though they did not see the vision, Mazlayo Chazi, their mazel saw the vision. Now this English translation says the mazel means an angel in heaven that's in charge of them. But what we have in this Maimon explaining, no, the mazel is not an angel, which is some sort of outside entity that's inspiring me. The mazel is really me. It's a deeper part of me. It's the part of me that's not changed. So therefore there was a vision. And they didn't see the vision. But their neshama that's not changed saw the vision. And because the neshama saw the vision, the neshama was overcome with fear. And that fear trickled down to the conscious part of the neshama. So they felt fear, they ran into hiding, They themselves didn't know what overcame them, why they felt despair. But the real reason was because the neshama up there was going through something because it saw this vision of Godliness.
When we say mazel here, that's the same mazel we say when we say mazel.
Mazel tov is something else.
Your mazel like our luck, if we can change our mazel, that concept of mazel.
It's actually different. Yeah. It's used in a different context. But this is the explanation to a lot of things. In other words, when we talk about the fact that a Yid will do a mitzvah, or Yid will go and be invited to a Shabbos table, and after that they get inspired, and they want to learn something, want to be more connected. What inspires them? Very often it's not something that is intellectual. Like a lot of times people say, I love the Shabbos table, it was beautiful, the fish was so tasty, the challah that the Rebbetzin baked was so good. Is that why you changed your life 180 degrees? Because the challah was tasty? I mean, this is not the reason why people make changes in their life. Something is going on. That's something that inspired them is the neshama l'maylo, the neshama that hasn't changed, knows what Shabbos is all about, feels the holiness of Shabbos, and therefore, by them being in that environment, the neshama l'mayla is like doing somersaults. And I feel something, I can't explain it, I can't interpret, I just feel a certain pleasure, I feel a certain connection. You have people who wrote the stories, and you hear it hundreds of times from so many people. I went this, and I tried that, and I tried another thing, this didn't work, that didn't work. And then when I went and I found a shul, or I went to a class and learned something about Torah or Hasidus, I felt I came home. What's this feeling? It's not something which you can actually explain. It's because the neshama feels what it's all about, and the neshama gets all excited and feels very positive and pleasurable, and that's the thing that I feel down here. So just like they felt fear, and other times you feel pleasure, you feel excitement, other different feelings, but it's really coming from a higher place from the neshama l'mayla, which means really every person, because we have that neshama, we should be loving Torah and loving mitzvahs and loving to do good things. But the connection between the soul that hasn't changed and the soul that's in the body that did change, that connection is not so connected consciously, openly. We don't feel it. So it's like having a reservoir of water, of hundreds of millions of gallons of water out there, and it's like 5 minutes away from my house. They have no water in my house because no one made the pipe to connect it. Or someone made the pipes and the pipes are clogged. So the water from there doesn't come to me here. So generally speaking, Hashem made it in such a way that we don't feel what the neshama is feeling. But through Torah, through mitzvahs, through self-refinement, we sort of enhance the connection. And we could feel more what's going on in our neshama up there. And even though, of course, we're down here and we're in a body, so we're limited in the way we are, but we'll be more conscious and we'll be more sensitive. Spirituality, if we're more connected to our source. Yeah.
So I'm sure the answer just was good to hear it. So even when we do swear it, so that even if you don't at that time feel it on a conscious level, it's still happening.
Exactly. The connection is being made. And the fact that I don't feel it, like I heard people say, I didn't feel it before and I'm not feeling it now. So first of all, these are things that takes time to really penetrate. And second of all, sometimes we don't even realize that we're being affected by it. And that's all part of it because we're in the body, so we don't get it. Now, what's the connection between the word mazel and the neshama that's up there? Why is it called mazel? And the answer is, ksiv, there's a passage where it says, the neizlim min levanim. So, neizlim in this context means it's flowing from levanim. The word mazel means to flow. Nozel means to flow. And what's levana? Levana is a word that also alludes to the deeper part of the soul, etzem and neshama, meishu l'mayla. And why is that so called Levanon? They said the word Levanon is made up of two parts. The first is Lamed Beis. Lamed Beis is 32. 32 in the Silas Chachma, there's a pasuk where it says there are 32 paths of wisdom. So when it says 32, there are a lot of things in Torah that are 32. For example, tzitzis. A man wears tzitzis. Each corner there are 8 strings. So 8 times 4 is 32. There are 8 strings and there are 4 corners, it's 32. So it's many Maimarim in Chassidus and in Kabbalah that explain how it's connected to the 32 paths of wisdom. Nun, the number 50, is connected to Bina. Nun Shari Bina. That's why there are many things in Torah that are connected to the number 50. So basically, it's referring to the 2 spheres of Chokhmah and Bina, which are in the essence of the soul, and that the influence and the spirituality flows from Levanon, from the essence of the soul, and flows to the part of the soul that's in here. So it means when a person does things, the more they're connected to that essence of the soul, the more effective it'll be because there's more spirituality in what I'm doing. If I'm less connected, then basically I'm doing it the way my neshama is melubish, invested in my body. But that's in a limited way, and therefore whatever is being accomplished is going to be limited. When you hear tshuva, this also explains the thoughts of tshuva, shenayfim la'adam, that come to a person, pissing suddenly believe shuma klal without any preparation. There's sometimes a person does tshuva because they're thinking into my life. It's time that I take a little bit of an account. What was my day like? What was my week like? What is my life like? How am I doing? And you think about certain thoughts, and that brings you to feel that I have to really change. But sometimes the thoughts of tshuva that come to the person, as you say in English, just out of the blue. I didn't prepare myself for this. I was davening like I daven every day, and suddenly the word somehow hit me, and it's inspiring me, and I'm having these thoughts of wanting to change and become better or correct the things that I'm doing wrong. Where did that suddenly come from? So the answer is there's something going on with the neshama up there, and I'm feeling the effect of what the neshama up there is experiencing. I'm feeling it down there. It doesn't explain it here. I just want to answer. Yes, Sheila.
Everything, what you just have and use it online, so I feel like Neshama is free, Neshama is like also to learn and sex.
Right.
It's like growing.
Right. But it's coming from me, but it's a different, deeper part of me that part of me sees and hears and experiences things in Shemayim. So if it's Shabbos, if it's Rosh Hashanah, if it's Yom Kippur, the Neshama L'mayla understands it and gets all excited. And that's why I feel down here and I want to go to shul. We find people that are all year long, they're not into going to shul. In Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, they want to go. In Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, they want to, do something. We see now, unfortunately, these people who held hostages, crazy stories, that these are people, a lot of them are very secular before. And after that, they wanted to keep Yom Kippur, wanted to fast. This person never fasted in his life. So obviously something he felt, his neshama up there, made him feel those feelings. There was nobody that gave him a lecture or gave him a shir and explained to him that you should do this or that. This all came from above. There's another part of this, but I don't think you have time to explain it. Tomorrow we'll go into that. About also specifically what is it that makes the person have it? What is going on up there that makes the person have a thought of tshuva? What could that be? But again, even this It's not that we feel this way 24/7, but it means sometimes we are feeling it, and sometimes we're not feeling the connection. And that has to do with things that we're not so familiar with. It could be a mitzvah that I did, it could be something else that I did, that because of that, Hashem opened the little window, Hashem opened the little unclogged the little pipe, that we should feel more of what's going on a higher level.
So the feeling is a blessing. And if I'm doing this one, or Hashem repeats the feeling more.
True. The mitzvahs themselves open up the connection between the Pahari Neshama and the lower Neshama. And Averis clog the connection between the two Neshama. Works both ways. Okay, I'm not sure what's supposed to happen next, but let's see. I'm not sure if this number was coming in. What? If she's not coming in, we'll have both classes together. Let me see if I got it right. Hold on a second. What? I think, baby, again, I'm feeling that. Same baby. Let me check. Let me